I'm going to be continuing my coverage of the Brisbane International Film Festival by talking about a film that is touted to be a huge Oscar player, and that is the latest film from Jacques Audiard, Emilia Perez. So, let's get into it. Is a very interesting and unique LGBTQ musical story that manages to try and do a lot of things and does pull off some of it successfully, and some of it can be a little bit messy. I understand the huge passion that this film has drawn out of the film festivals, because this has so many interesting ideas that it's presenting that it does make for an engaging film for a lot of this. I think the opening 30 to 45 minutes of this film is actually spectacular and had me considering if this is one of the best movies of the year. The musical elements were absolutely riveting, with some true bangers in it there that were just really wonderful to listen to, with expert choreography. This isn't a huge budget film, but what it manages to do can be so creative and engaging. It just creates a fun atmosphere when you're watching this movie. And going into this narrative about helping this Mexican cartel drug lord transition from male to female was also very interesting. And the way that it plays with its contents feels very naturalistic. It doesn't feel like it's shoving some kind of agenda down your throat. It just belongs within this story, and it works in that 45 minutes. It's riveting stuff. We're following Zoe Saldana for this whole period of time, and she is excellent. She is considered to be one of the frontrunners for Best Supporting Actress this year, and I can see that after seeing this movie. Every scene with Zoe Saldana had my eyes glued to the screen. I thought her performance was phenomenal, and the way that she's able to balance these dramatic sequences with these musical moments was just a stunning work of acting that I was truly mesmerized by. However, after that 45 minutes ended, it felt like this movie ran out of so much steam and just started jumping in all of these different directions. And because of that, I just stopped being as interested in this, and it did fall short a lot of the way for me, to where it kind of felt a little bit disappointing and frustrating, because after this 45-minute sequence ends, it almost feels like a lot of what the movie was trying to do is over, and we're moving on to something else now, and it just doesn't manage to pick up that momentum as it starts focusing on these cartel elements and less about the characters and their identity. Zoe Saldana starts taking a back seat, who is a character that we thought was the lead, and now we're going on to another character. And while the change in identity with this trans character is definitely fascinating, and when it dived into those elements, I thought the film was absolutely riveting. But going into this double life element with this cartel stuff, it just makes for a messy movie with these elements not really connecting with me in any meaningful way, and not being as interesting as what the rest of the film was doing. You also have Selena Gomez in there as this character that has had to deal with a loss and is trying to find herself. And I also thought the elements with this character added to the messiness of the whole thing, because it would just completely go down that avenue, as well as this cartel stuff, and it just feels like it's completely lost what it was trying to do before and doesn't quite come together. And as I said, it just doesn't make for as engaging of a film when that happens. It just felt like it lost the plot, became frustrating, and it is a bit annoying because these performances from this whole ensemble are excellent. I believe the three main actresses within this film all won Best Actress at the Cannes Film Festival, and it is deservingly so. I thought they were all fantastic. They all do well with the musical sequences. I do think Zoe Saldana was the absolute standout here. Probably career best work from her, if I'm being honest, but the narrative just jumps all over the place. And while it does have moments that definitely lock me in, every single musical sequence was fantastic, truly fantastic. And there are going to be songs in here that are probably going to get nominated for Best Original Song at the Academy Awards, deservingly so, because they're bangers. They play into the narrative really nicely. They're very well choreographed. They're shot beautifully, and they're edited supremely well. There's one sequence with Selena Gomez's character that I thought was just so well edited, and I just loved that creative flair that the film was bringing. It just doesn't quite do it all the time, and it just becomes so frustrating. Carla Sofia Gascon is the third lead, who is really the one that you're following for the majority of this film, and the character that we really switch to in focusing on after Zoe Saldana. And she's the one that is dealing with all these cartel elements and this change in her identity. And I did love those elements, especially the double life that she's now leading as this now woman, and what that means to her, as well as what it means to her family. I loved all of those elements and found those moments to be really touching. But when we're going into gangster, cartel, action movie stuff, it just falls apart to me. And as I said, just loses a lot of its momentum, to the point where I was getting more and more frustrated as the film was going on, as it kept going down those avenues, rather than focusing on what it had built up so well in the first 45 minutes or so. Overall, Emilia Perez is a fine movie. I understand why so many people love it. I love a lot about this movie, but I wanted it to be a lot more consistent and deliver on what it had set up, because what it had set up was making for one of the best movies of the year, and I do feel very shortchanged that it just doesn't follow that, and just kind of loses itself and loses its identity because it just wants to do one too many things. I appreciate the heart and love behind this movie. I appreciate the amazing musical sequences and the way that it blends genres. It's all very fascinating stuff and makes for a unique and interesting movie. But as a cohesive piece, it just doesn't quite come together. And because of that, as a score, I'm going to give Emilia Perez a 3 out of 5, because I do think it loses its way. And that is such a shame, because there's so much promise that this film showed through a lot of its runtime. And those are my thoughts towards Emilia Perez. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Do you think this should be a huge Oscar player? I do definitely think there are elements that are deserving of nominations, but it does seem a little bit crazy that this is touted to be a frontrunner for Best Picture. I think nominations may be worthy, but I just think that this just isn't as cohesive of a piece to go that far. But hey, that's just my thoughts. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.